The Tower at Paradigm's Breach is the third 24-man raid in Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. It's the newest piece of content, and I want to give you as much insight as I can into how you can complete this raid successfully. So we are going to begin with the first couple of bosses, the first one being the Knave of Hearts. That's this enemy right here. Now, he has a few things that can't be avoided, but for the most part, I would consider this fight pretty simple, especially considering some of the fights you're going to come up against here very soon. So his first attack will be Roar. It's unavoidable, arena-wide damage. There's nothing you can do about it. Just be prepared to take a little bit of damage. You can pop a CD if you need to, but it's going to happen pretty frequently. The next thing is going to be Colossal Impact, and there's one of two ways this can happen. What you just saw was kind of a red energy attack from his mouth that covers the middle. Now, when he brings his arms back, what he's actually doing is he's charging for a sweep of his claws on the outside. This attack is going to keep popping up throughout this fight. So it's important that you recognize when you see him charging a red energy ball in his mouth, it's going to be the middle. If his arms go back, claws are going on the side. He will drop this magic artillery. This is the tank buster. It will apply to all three tanks, so just be prepared for it. If you have any stacks of vulnerability, there is a possibility that this will kill you. So you want to make sure that you are nailing these mechanics and pop some CDs if you need to. Now you'll notice he's actually replicated himself. There are two knaves up on the field at one time right now. So whenever he does his Colossal Impact, which is either the Energy Blast or the Claw Sweep, he's going to do that in succession. The main one will always go first, and this can actually get up to 2 replicants, so there can be 3 knaves that you need to pay attention to at one time. So just something to keep an eye out for. He will also spawn these little orbs over here. As you can see, they're kind of coming in front of him, and then they shoot these orbs. You just want to avoid those as best as you can. And also he will occasionally drop some dot effects, those orange effects that you saw on random party members. Just, move out of the way. Then he'll also have this lunge attack that he is going to do, where he is going to jump. You want to be as far away from his feet as possible. Now when he lunges, he's going to spawn these blocks of cubes, and then he's going to begin charging another lunge. This lunge is a little bit different. So what you need to do is you need to position yourself so that when he makes his next attack, it will push you back into some blocks so you don't fall off. So you'll notice here in just a second, when that first one goes off, it's going to actually knock me back into these blocks back here. You want to pay attention to this because the reticle for it on the ground is very short. Those blocks are then going to shuffle for whatever replicant is up, and you'll need to reposition yourself to another set of blocks. You'll notice I just did this right here. And then he will go back into his normal rotation of offering magic artillery, the colossal impacts, the spheroids, and the magic artillery. That is pretty much the gist of this fight. You'll notice another roar there. It's unavoidable, arena-wide damage. There's nothing you can do about it other than CD it, cool down it, make sure you're using your defensive cooldowns if you're a tank like me, and making sure that your healers are on top of that stuff. He's just going to continue to rotate, and you'll notice now here he has done replicate twice, so that there are actually 3 knaves you'll need to keep an eye out on, and this can be a little bit difficult. So you'll notice right here he's about to do his breath attack, his beam attack, whatever you want to call it. It's going to go straight down the middle. Then you're going to transition over to the next one. You'll see he is also charging a beam. It's going to go down the middle, so you're going to want to move. And then the next one is going to be a claw attack, so you want to be in the middle. These are all things you want to keep an eye out for, because eventually a bunch of these attacks, they're orange reticles on the ground letting you know where they're going to strike. Those are going to pop up fairly frequently, and it's going to be kind of rapid pace. But if this is difficult for you, you definitely want to sharpen up before you get to the future bosses, because they are much more difficult than this guy. But in all honesty, that's pretty much the mechanics of the fight. You just want to watch out for the damaging reticles. You want to move and position yourself properly, and of course make sure you're not being pushed off during these lunge sequences. So line yourself up with the blocks as best as you can. As long as you're keeping an eye out for how many replicants are out and what order they are going in, this fight should be no problem. The second boss at the Tower of Paradigm's Breach are Gretel and Hansel. These guys need to be damaged pretty close, and they have to die at the same time. Now, the shield and lance mechanic will kind of help keep track of that for you. There's just something to keep in mind. Now, first things first, you're going to need your 2 tanks to separate these guys as much as possible. If they are not separated, they're going to be tethered to each other, and they're going to deal more damage and just become an even bigger problem for you. So you want to make sure that one tank is grabbing Hansel, the other one's grabbing Gretel, and you are splitting them up as far apart as you can so they are not tethered. The big thing here is the upgraded lance and shield. Now, either one of them is going to upgrade a lance and the other is going to upgrade a shield. The one with the upgraded shield is actually going to take reduced damage, and it will actually cause damage to a player that is striking it. So what your goal is, you're going to need to alternate between both of these enemies depending on who has the upgraded lance and who has the upgraded shield. It's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier, so just be sure to pay attention to that. So what you just saw right there is Bloody Sweep. So that's a sweep that covers half the arena, and that starts from where each of these enemies are. So you're going to have 2 overlapping laps that aren't going to be safe. Now, both bosses will hold out their lances to opposite directions. So if they are to their mutual outsides, then the safe spot is going to be between them. If the lances are between them, then the safe spot is diagonally across the arena from those lances. So keep that in mind. They're also going to cast Crippling Blow and Wail. Now, they're not going to do the same move. They will alternate. Crippling Blow is the tank buster. The twin without the shield is going to initially cast this, and then they'll alternate. The other one is going to use Wail, which is arena-wide unavoidable damage. This comes in combination with the tank buster, that it's going to alternate on which one is casting it. Now, what's happening here is actually Tandem Assault, Bloody Sweep. So these guys are going to go to one corner, and then they're going to do a dash. And as they dash, those orbs in the middle are going to ignite and do damage off to the side. Now, there are openings, so the key is your party just wants to stand where one of those openings is going to be to avoid that damage. Now, whenever that happens, whenever they do these little tandem assaults where they reposition themselves in the middle, again, you want to make sure that you are splitting these guys up so that they are not tethered. If they are tethered, they become a big problem. Another thing that's going to happen is Seed of Magic Alpha and also Riot of Magic. Okay, so several players will be marked with circular AoEs that are going to travel with them until they're done. Make sure you spread out. The other one, the Riot of Magic, it's going to be a stack marker. Everybody that doesn't have a traveling area of effect needs to stack and soak that damage as best as they can. Now, here in just a moment, Hansel and Gretel are actually going to set up for another tandem assault, so you'll be able to see how that works again. Here you'll notice they jump over to the side, and they're setting themselves up to do a Bloody Sweep. You need to pay attention to the angle that their lances are facing. That is going to tell you what you need to know. However, you'll notice here they do have the ability to swap places, which will change where the safe zone is. That's actually what happens right there, and a bunch of us get hit by it because we were still learning this fight. So keep in mind that they can swap places, so the initial lance placement is not always going to be where they end up. And what's happening here is a wandering trail. It's kind of 8 discs that are going to kind of travel around the edge of the arena. 4 are going to move in one direction, 4 in the other, so that they overlap, and then they're going to, kind of pincer players in and do some periodic damage. Now, they're going to drop this big attack here in the middle. Whenever that happens, again, you just want to stay on the outside, but make sure you're weaving in between those discs so they're not chipping away at you. They don't do a ton of damage, but if you sit in them, they will definitely start to chew away at your health bar. Now that is pretty much the long and short of this fight. The one final thing that I want to explain to you is another big reason that you want these guys to die at the same time, and that's lamentation. So when one of the twins is dead, the other one is going to begin casting this, and if it finishes before that twin is defeated, everybody is going to be taking raid-wide unavoidable damage, and it's going to keep going until that final boss is dead. So you want to make sure that these guys die as close to the same time as you can. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. You're going to be taking a lot of extra damage, and it could cost you and force you to wipe towards the end of that fight. This is definitely something that you want to pay attention to. This can be confusing initially the first time you do it, but just kind of pay attention learn their movements and make sure that you keep these guys separated, and this should be not too bad, especially compared to the fights that come later in this raid. We'll save those fights for our next video because they are much more complex and I would definitely say more difficult. So be sure to tune in for part 2 of this raid guide. My name is Stout Helm. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful for you, and if it was, be sure to subscribe and share this with somebody who you feel like can benefit from this information. Take care, and I'll see you next time.